Hi, in this video, we'll be designing the character switch sound effect from the video game Genshin Impact. So I'll be showing you how to design it from scratch using a synth and other elements. So let's just jump right into our session and let's get designing. All right, so here we are inside of Reaper, and what I like to do first is just play you the original game sound, so we have a reference to listen to, and then I'll play you my redesign, and then we'll go from there and design from scratch. So here is the original character change sound effect. All right, so that's the original game sound, and now let's have a listen to the redesign. All right, so it's not exactly perfect, but it's pretty darn close. And yeah, so I want to show you how I created that from scratch. So here we go. Let's start right at the beginning here. So the first sound effect that I had was the bubbly sound. It sounds like this. All right, so if we listen to the original, it has this kind of bubbly sound. Right, and the way I created this sound was inside of Faceplant. So let me show you how I did that inside of Faceplant. So I'm just going to load up a brand new patch of inside of Faceplant here, and I'll show you how we did that. All right, so within Faceplant, the first thing I wanted to do is just start with a wavetable, and I went towards kind of a sine wave, but then a little bit more bend. So I went around here, and then the first thing I added here was an LFO, and it's just a pyramid LFO like this, and I made sure it was in the positive here. And the thing I assigned this to was the pitch. So I'm going to assign this to the pitch around plus 24. And this part you can actually kind of experiment with and play around with how you can get the best results. But for me, around like 24, 25, 26, 28 was like pretty good. So with that, this is what we have right now. Right? Not exactly what we want, but if we speed it up, I think we'll get pretty darn close to the sound. So let's go all the way up to like 20 here. Right, so that's pretty close to the sound. Now, a few things we're going to want to tweak here. First is the release. I want it to be a little bit longer so it sounds a bit more natural whenever I let go of my key. It's a bit too long. So that's around, that sounds about right. Next thing I'm going to add here is just a little bit of distortion. So I'm going to bring the mix down here like this, and saturation, and that sounds okay. And then the last thing I'm going to do is, if we listen to the original, whenever the sound was, this like bubbly sound was released, it actually went up in pitch. So to do that, I'm going to add an envelope. I'm going to increase the release here to about 137 like this. And I'm going to curve it down a little bit, and we might fix that later. And this I'm also going to assign to the pitch so that whenever we release the note, it's going to suddenly go up in pitch. So let's have a listen here. So right now it's going the wrong way, so I'm going to go down negative 10 about. We could even do a little bit less. And there you go. So now it has this like release that's going upwards in pitch rather than downwards in pitch. Right, so once we have that, now it's just a matter of like matching up the tone of our design sound with the tone of the original sound. So if we listen here. Right, and with that, we have a pretty close sound to the original. It's not exactly perfect, but if you want to like play around with it and try to get it even closer, you can play around with different like wavetables here, and then also a different like LFO shape here, and that could also help to get your sound closer. But with that done, I was pretty happy with that, so I kept it like that. Hey, I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the video, but if you haven't checked yet, make sure to check the description. I have a free sound pack for you that you can use royalty-free as your part of your personal or commercial projects. There's over 900 sound effects, so if you're a sound designer and you're interested, make sure to check out the description. All right, let's get back into designing. This is our next layer here. Sounds like this. And this was kind of like this magical kind of sound, so I'm going to take off the effects here so we hear what we have. Right, so it's very wide, which obviously I didn't want because it just didn't make sense for this context. So here you can see I brought the width all the way in, and that's pretty much it here. Make sure I put the multiband on. So it keeps the sound right in front of us. That's perfect. Next thing I did is I probably cut out some of the lows, which is exactly what I did here, just because we don't need that for the sound here. So I cut out the lows. And then finally, I used track spacer to blend this with the other layers. So I think the other layers here, let's have a look at what I'm blending it with. It is a number 32, which is our bubble layer up here. So this is kind of, these two are like blending in together. So together it sounds like this. So you don't hear very much because of that track spacer. Right, I really wanted that bubble layer to be more present. That was more important than this little one here. So yeah, and that's it. And the way I created that, by the way, is if I'm not mistaken, I think I was using like my sampling sound design. If you want to see a video about it, I'll put it up in the cards above. I don't exactly remember entirely what I did, but I'm pretty sure I basically printed out a big long file and then I kind of chopped it up until I found this kind of cool sound that I liked. All right, let's move on to our next one here. So this is a kind of metallic whoosh. Sounds like this. right? It's very tonal. And the way that I created that is using like a short like impact sound. So if I take off my effects on here, this is the sound. So all it is here, it's the exact same sound twice, but I reversed the first part of it and then I put it in the like playing forward for the next part. So they're kind of blending in together, right? So that's how I got this sound here. All right, so what's making up the majority of the sound here is this plugin right here, Supermodal, and this is great for adding like tonal sounds to a sound effect. So let's have a listen to what it's doing here. So what I'm doing here is I'm adding this like glass texture to the sound. I put a little bit of decay and a little bit of drive, and that's basically it. Here I chose like the peak of the glass of like the resonant frequency of the glass is around like 4 kilohertz. And that's what it's doing. So that's basically it. Like this is what's taking over the entire sound. Basically, it's Supermodal here. Okay, after that, it was just a matter of putting in a little bit of reverb here, right? It makes it sound like feel like it's in a space, and then the gain just to balance it with the other layers. So with the other layers now, we have this. And you'll notice it's very, very, it's not very present in the sound, and that's just how I wanted it. I just want it to be this kind of shimmering layer. You don't want it to be too present because else it's going to be too harsh. I could put a filter on it, but anyways, I kept it the way it is like that for now. So, all right, the next one is a whoosh. So let's have a listen to this one. And this one, I did no processing on it. And if we have a look at it, I'll see if I can bring the file over here. This is the file. And the way that I had created that is with auto Doppler. So this is by NVK Tools. I had NVK auto Doppler on a sound file that had noise. So it's just a bunch of like noise oscillators that I put together, and then I put it through NVK auto Doppler, and then I created this kind of file here. I cut out the beginning because obviously I didn't want the impact sound. So that's how I created this like whoosh. And that's it. So it's basically just like an impact made out of noise, and then I just put in a fade right at the beginning so I don't hear that transient. And then finally we had our last sound down here, and this is our kick sound. Sounds like this. And this was already just a pre-designed tonal kick sound that I had in my library. I just dropped it in here. I didn't do anything in terms of like processing or anything. I just cut off the transient a little bit and then the tail because I didn't want it to be too long. And then I think I did a bit of, so I did a bit of processing here where I cut out some of the highs and just tamed the lows a little bit. And that's it. So without it, it sounded like this, right? Very, very bassy in your face. And then with it, right, it's just a lot nicer sounding. And now all together, we have this sound. All right, I hope you found this redesign valuable. If you like that, I think you'll like another video that I made where I redesigned some of the sounds from Donkey Kong Country from a clip from that game. So if you're interested in seeing that, I'll make sure to put it up in the cards above and in the description. And I think that's it for now. If you have any comments, questions, please leave them down below. I always do my best to answer. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.